All right, welcome to the Back Lounge Sessions. I'm Josh Kretschmer. I am a journalist and author, as you know, and just in the past year alone, I've put out a pair of books, Red Dirt Unplugged and Never Say Never. And these are conversations in the spirit of music and community. And I am delighted to be joined today by Bella Steiert. She is a young music fan. Where are you graduating from, or where'd you just graduate from? Tell me your story, Bella. Tell me where you're from.
Yes, so I grew up in Florida and I moved to Mississippi in 2020 for family. Moved into an old family home and I graduated my bachelor's degree at Stetson University in Florida, and I just got my master's from Ole Miss, and I'm a college radio DJ. I've been doing college radio since 2019, so I've been doing it through every school I go to, and I'm about to move to Tuscaloosa and get my PhD in communications and media studies. But music is my passion, and I want to be a professor, but I wanted to like teach classes about music as well. And I've been interviewing and doing radio for the last several years, and it's been a fun outlet of kind of self-expression. And my music taste has changed a lot since I first got started, and it's just been a fun journey.
Well, I want to hear about those musical influences and that taste and journey. You're incredibly passionate about it. A lot of people are. So I'm kind of curious as to what's sort of gotten in your blood and in your bones that has you wanting to take it as far as you can. So tell me your musical backstory and tell me how you ended up on the cusp of if everything goes your way and making a career out of it.
Yeah, well, I ever since I was little, I was always obsessed like with music. Like my parents always played music, but it was kind of like I grew up on like REM and Dave Matthews and John Mayer, Coldplay, like adult contemporary. And then for a while I was really into like alternative indie, like big on Death Cab for Cutie, Vampire Weekend, like all that kind of thing. A lot of like the 2010s indie bands, and I that was like my main thing for a while was alternative. And then when I moved to Mississippi, um I I got into American Aquarium about, I think, in 2021. I went with family and we saw them in Memphis, and like I had heard American Aquarium, and then after seeing them live, it was just kind of like that was like a light switch went off basically for me, because I've been doing radio, but like I said, it was very much like indie pop, alternative. I went to like a lot of concerts, but they were a lot of like kind of bigger concerts. I'd never been in like that Americana, red dirt, alt country space, and just seeing how good American Aquarium was, it kind of sent me into this vortex that we were talking about yesterday, where like I just got into all kinds of music in that realm, and that's how I found Jason Isbell. That's how I found Turnpike, and it just kind of spiraled. And then when I found that like singer-songwriter kind of focused music like that, it was like, oh, this is like what I'm super passionate about. Like I love how all of these people, they can tell these stories that, even though I'm come from completely different backgrounds as like somebody like Jason Isbell or BJ Barham, like I can really relate to what they're saying. And so that really resonated with me. And I also have high functioning autism. And so like with people like Jason or with like UJ, like those kind of stories are just easier for me to kind of process and really connect with. And I didn't really connect with a lot of the music I'd listened to prior on like an emotional level. So that was really cool. And I kind of caught the bug, and I've been decided to kind of reach out to people and get interviews on my show. And through American Aquarium, that was like I found Corey Brennan, and he was like my first musician interview. And I've been doing interviews since about like 2023, and I've gotten to talk to a lot of my musical heroes, and it's been a really cool experience.
Tell me a little bit more about this show. Tell me how this show and I mean I was just on it. Tell me how this came about and how you have wound up having some pretty cool conversations with a lot of the artists in this independent roots rock and alt country scene.
Yeah, so my show, it's called Undefined. It had gone through a few different names, but like right when
Yeah.
after 2021, like kind after I got an American Aquarium, I had like taken a little break from college radio and I wanted to get back in it. And I was talking to my mom and I was like, well, I feel like and a lot of my stuff is kind of based in that roots rock Americana stuff now, but I don't want to be held down to like a specific thing because I am kind of all over the map and I wanted that freedom. And she was like, why don't you call it Undefined? And so that was fun because some weeks I'll play kind of theme shows. I'll have interviews or I can play anything from like rock, pop, 2000s, like stuff that's culturally relevant. Like I've done episodes about like the Grammys or festivals, and so that was cool. And then reaching out to people, like ever since I was younger, I always wanted to interview people,
Yeah.
and I just kind of I will go out and if there's somebody that I really admire, I really want to talk to, I just like send them an email and send their press person an email. And I've gotten really lucky and I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people and have cool experiences and kind of I've had returning guests on the show, which is awesome. I've talked to Ben from Lucero a couple times. I've talked to Corey Brennan twice, and it's just cool to kind of have like not only like being able to interview these people that I really admire, but to kind of have like these cool like friendship working relationships. And I think it's really neat to get that behind the scenes aspect of it. And it's just something I always wanted to keep on doing. That's why I'm glad I'm still going to school because college radio is a really good outlet for all of this too. And I think that's like what's really cool as well is to bring awareness to about these artists who might not really be on like college kids' radar to like play it on air and to share the message. I think that's been really cool as well.
Give me a highlight. Maybe not your favorite. I'm not asking that, but just give me a highlight, something that stands out that you're gonna carry with you, probably forever from doing this show. An interview, a moment, a joke that someone told. Just anything that sticks out to you. Give me a highlight. Share with the world
Yeah,
what.
I have a lot. It's hard. Like, I've been able to talk to three of the members of the 400 unit. I've got Sadler, Vaden, Will Johnson, Anna Butters, and like those were really cool to like talk about them and talk to them and hear their stories and all about their cool different side projects and hear about the band. And that was always fun. I always love talking to Ben Nichols. And I actually like this is funny because I'm able to kind of bring in all kinds of whatever I'm into and kind of funnel it through music. Like I actually got to talk to Billy Bob Thornton. He's
Yeah.
in a band, yeah, called the Boxmasters, and they're not really like Americana. They're like rock, but I ended up bonding with Billy Bob Thornton because he's also a fan of Lucero, and that was a fun discovery. And I was able to tell Ben Nichols, and I've actually I kept in touch with Billy Bob, so I saw Ben. And we made a video, we recorded a video, and I had sent it to Billy Bob, and he got a giant kick out of it. And that's cool too, like, because I was a big fan of him and all his work, and we just talked for 2 hours all about music. We didn't even talk about acting, which was like really cool. And I think
Oh, that's
it was
great.
just nice to like hear like his perspective of like classic rock, how he got started. He recorded in Muscle Shoals like several years ago. He's recorded in a lot of these spaces that, all these other people that I've talked to have recorded in, like him and Lucero, they were both did stuff at Ardent in Memphis. So it's cool to kind of take somebody like him that a lot of people might not associate with music, but then just have like a 2 hour conversation about that. Like that was a huge highlight for me.
Um, you talked about, and you're public with this about the turning point in your life that American Aquarium show was. I want you to take me back to that and tell me what stood out to you. What do you remember about seeing BJ Barham and company for the first time, and why did it make the impact that it did?
Well, I think right off the bat, it had like a total like different sense of community. Like I'm used to going to like a lot of shows at that time with a lot of people like in around my age range and
Right.
like a lot of like Gen Z and younger and just kind of like that fangirl crowd. So this was completely different. And I think the level of accessibility of the artists at that show was completely different. Like I was with my mom, we were standing outside the venue, and this guy comes up and he's like, "Do you want me to take your picture?" And we're like, "Yes." Or we had asked him, And my mom goes, "Are you here to see American Aquarium tonight?" And he's like, "We are American. We're in American Aquarium." So it was Neil and
Yeah.
Alden and Ryan, and we had talked to them for like 20 minutes and just like sat with them outside the venue. And I'd kept in touch with them ever since. And every time I've seen them like almost 10 times now, like they always will go out of their way to say hi to my mom and I because we usually go to all the shows together. And it was just like it was really cool to just kind of talk to them as people. And then I ran into BJ before the show and I said hi to him afterwards. And just that, not only that, like, to be able to, like, his ethic and how he always shakes everybody's hand and always introduce himself. It was also my first show post-COVID. And then to see them in that, it was at Lafayette's in a small venue and
Yeah.
like rocked the house down. And his sincerity too was like I had never really seen anything like that. I'm like, wow, like this the energy was like crazy. And I think we saw them like two or three more times that summer because it was just so good. And yeah, it was really eye-opening. And then it just led me to all of this other music kind of gradually.
And you're on the other side of it now. Um,
Hmm.
what's different? What's different about the music that you're listening to? And we're talking about the Americana world. We're talking about,
Hmm.
um, you know, the modern Muscle Shoals sound. We're talking about modern Red Dirt and Appalachian music.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of all that too, but we're decade and a half apart in age, and so
Yeah.
what brought me to it is not going to be what brought you to it. And I'm just curious about what you heard in this music that set it apart from, the rock and the music you grew up on.
Yeah, I think like the sincerity and like the way the way that it sounded because it was so funny because I kind of grew up in like, oh, country's bad. Like I only knew country as like mainstream country. And I liked like the early 2000s country and like some of the 90s country. It was never really like all I knew was like that mainstream radio part of it. And so the fact that there was music that had like a lot of these like country instrumentals and there was these people telling these raw stories, but then it also sounded like rock and roll. And it had all of these different blends to it. I think it really struck a chord with me, and I really got excited. And the way that people can kind of tell stories and the musicality of it too, because it's all not the same. I mean, some of it's more acoustic based, some of it's more kind of rootsy, bluegrassy, and just to see how people can take that and really expand on the genre, like, even like something like American Aquarium or Jason, or even like Ragweed. Like Ragweed also kind of reminds you of like college rock or like, more like more rock and roll than some of the other artists that I listen to. And it's cool that they're all kind of in the same like bubble, but they're all different. And I think that's really fun. And then the songwriting too really resonated with me.
Well, I'm gonna share a quick story of mine because I want to set up one of yours. um,
Hmm.
I can vividly remember walking into um, a series of bars across Texas. One was in San Antonio, one was in Corpus Christi, the old Executive Surf Club, and there's another in Dallas Fort Worth, and it was '06, and I was with Ragweed, and at that time I wasn't really writing, but I still had a real good rapport with Ragweed, and we were all friends, and so I was with them on their bus on this little run, and they're headlining, but it was co-headlining, and so playing before them were the Drive-By Truckers, and
Hmm.
I had heard about them, and the folks in Ragweed are huge fans of theirs. But this was the first time I got to see them,
Hmm.
and I was I was struck by how much a band that, aside from Jason, who was in it and playing guitar at the time, um, how much from a different part of the country and from a slightly older generation than Ragweed, how the sounds and the songwriting approach and the general music and the harmonies reminded me of what I heard in Ragweed. And one of those nights, everybody in Ragweed, me and Jason ended up staying up all night playing cards, and it was just harmless fun. And that's my story of how I became a Drive-By Truckers fan, but also was my introduction to Jason Isbell, who is, um, for my money, one of the all-time greatest songwriters and guitar players and overall musicians.
Mhm.
And when you combine it with his worldview, there's not many that I'm ever going to speak more highly of. But you feel the
Mhm.
same way. And again, we're
Mhm.
15, 18 years apart in age, and your
Mhm.
view of Jason and his music is going to be different than mine. So I want to hear what brought you into the orbit of Jason Isbell and the 400 unit. Where did you first hear their music, and tell me about the impact that made on your life?
Oh wow, that's a big question. Well, it's funny because it does kind of tie back with around the time after I saw American Aquarium. I had heard his name a lot more. I think he's somebody like I always knew he kind of existed, like because I also follow the award circuit and everything like that, and I keep up with music publications. So I've always like I'd seen him in passing or like on Grammy season and stuff. I had seen articles with his name in it, but for some reason, like because like I had such a limited view on country, I thought he was like, oh, he's just like mainstream country. Like I really didn't know what to expect of him. And then I heard from American Aquarium, he produced Burn, Flicker, Die, so I heard that story. And then I just started like it was so funny. I joke about it. It's almost like the universe. Like I could not escape his name at a certain point. Like I kept seeing it everywhere. Other people were talking to me about him, and I was just like, I was at Stetson and I was working at my desk job and I was putting on music and I was like, okay, I'm finally going to listen to Jason Isbell because I keep hearing his name everywhere. And so I put on I shuffled him with Spotify and then Be Afraid came on and then If We Were Vampires came on and I was just like hooked. It was like there was no turning back. It was like unlike and it was so weird. Like it was unlike anything I'd ever really experienced. Like and I just was hooked. Like I heard his songs and I went through all of like, the Spotify Essentials or whatever playlist that I had on at the time. And then the rest of that year, it was just like fully in it. It was never just like, okay, I'm gonna listen to a couple of songs. And then I think a few months after that, I was able to get tickets. My family had surprised me for Christmas. I'd gotten tickets to see him in
Where at?
Chattanooga.
All right.
Um, in 2022. So it was
Yeah.
my junior year of college, and then it was like that just like it was incredible. And his music has, I really, I'd never felt like like I had music that I love and that I was like really passionate about, but there was something about Jason's music that kind of connected with me in a way that nothing really has been. And like his voice is incredible, his guitar playing, but even like I mentioned, like I have high functioning autism, I have processing issues, so sometimes it's really hard for me to even like yeah, I know the lyrics to a song, but to really
Yeah.
like for it to click what's going on
Yeah.
and the way that he writes stuff like Dress Blues or like If We Were Vampires, like I'd just be driving and all of these songs like they were clicking, like they were making sense in my head. And I think like the way that he can write a song and make it so universal and also like I had just moved to Mississippi and I was kind of like a lot of the Southern culture and experiencing that in conjunction with listening to his music really like it really hit at a certain time for me and it was just like a light bulb went off and now he's my biggest inspiration and musical hero. I've seen him like almost 10 times since 2022. I try to see him every chance I get and it's just like it's an unreal experience. I really can't explain it. But then I got into the truckers the same time too and I love them a lot as well and they're just the best. So yeah, it was really cool.
Give me a favorite, give me a standout um, Jason Isbell and the 400 unit concert memory. Not your first one, but just tell
Yeah.
me something that you think about when you think about going to one of their shows now.
Oh, I saw them at the Ryman for the first time in 2023, and that was one of the nights that they did Southeastern front to
Yes.
back, and that was like my favorite. I don't know if I could pick favorites, but that's definitely it means a lot to me. And so to hearing that front to back, and then they went straight into the King of Oklahoma, which is my favorite song by them. So that was like insane. And then also like I saw three of the four shows that he just did solo at the Pinnacle, and those were like the best like musical experience. I was only planning to go to one, and I just went to all three, kind of on a whim, and that was just I heard so many songs that I'd never heard him play before, and just like seeing him. I love singing with a 400 unit, but it was crazy just seeing him solo. It felt like he was just playing in my living room, and like I wasn't in a theater with all these other people. So that was a really cool experience as well.
One thing that strikes me about Jason is he does have this ability to make any size room feel both big and small. And
Hmm.
some of it's production. He's got just an incredible production team behind him, especially for an independent artist.
Oh
But,
yeah.
he can be playing an arena and make it feel like it's a coffee shop. And conversely, he can be playing a 1,000 cap room and make you feel like you're watching it at the Hollywood Bowl. He's just got a great sense of the not just the crowd, but the entire room.
Hmm.
And I think what sets him apart from just about all of his contemporaries in my book is his view of himself as an artist
Hmm.
and music being, his canvas. Um, we'll move on from Jason, but first I want to hear what you thought about Foxes in the Snow.
Oh yeah, I really loved it. I think it exemplifies everything you said about like him being able to make the music his canvas. And I think it was especially interesting seeing it live, like so soon after it had come out in that setting. And I think, one thing that he's really good at is he's really good at, whether we don't know if he's writing in the, like, if it's autobiographical, autobiographical. I don't know if I said that correctly,
You
but,
said it close enough.
autobiographical
This
or,
might be a
yeah,
life
yeah, close
story. It
enough,
might be
close
made
enough.
up.
Yeah, yeah. May not, but the way we don't know, but he's still able to make it seem like, he's talking to you, he's telling you the story. And I feel like I feel like that's like, it felt like a diary entry of him just kind of being raw and open about a time of his life and just kind of letting us know. And even the way that it was put out was so interesting. Like it didn't have like a huge rollout. It came out pretty quickly. It was just him and the acoustic guitar. And I think, even the whole recording process of him doing it in a week without the band, him not recording it in the South, I thought was very interesting as well, because he usually records his albums in like Nashville or Alabama. So I think it was really cool. And I think it has a nice balance of songs that kind of show where he's at in various parts of his life. And I think it was a really like raw and open and honest album. And it's so good live too. And the way that he's able to present these songs that are like pretty heavy, but when he presents them at the live show, what I've always found was really endearing about is that he doesn't really like tell you like exactly what the song is about. He'll just kind of tell like a story that's like a funny antidote
Yeah.
of like something that happened in the recording process or something like, when he was talking about Crimson and Clay, how he tries to write a happy song, but then something kind of came in like halfway through. He has such a nice way of like presenting it to the audience where it's like, yeah, it's like heavy, it's songs that are going to make you think, but he kind of presents it in like a unique way. And I think that like his way with the crowd as well, and the way that he can get so personal, I feel like that's why a lot of people like myself feel so connected to his music, because it is like so, I think the way that he's able to be so emotionally vulnerable, I mean, especially as a Southern man, I think is very um inspiring.
Well, have you gotten to see the 400 units since Foxes in the Snow came out?
No, but I'm
All
seeing
right.
them next month. Yeah.
All right, we're going to record like a 5 minute addendum after the first time you hear Bury Me played full band. Um, as a Southerner, which you are,
Uh-huh.
um, and as one whose favorite artists hail from there, but also aren't shy of being critical of the South.
Hmm.
Crimson and Clay being a great example, and just about
Hmm.
everything BJ writes about the South
Yeah.
being a great example. Um, what do you see in their music, and what do you take away from that message, given how steadfast um, Southern way of life is. When you see Aquarium and Jason sing proudly about it, but also aim to move it forward, how does that impact you as a Southerner?
I think it impacts me a lot as a Southerner in the way that, I feel like it's a very complex topic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful things in the South and the culture and the music, but there's also a lot of not great things
Right.
about the South, especially living in the South in like this modern age. And especially in like myself, I live in a super small town in Mississippi right now, and so a lot of it almost feels like you're kind of living in the olden times, and there's a lot of like that the backwards, older time way of thinking in a lot of the ways that people move here, and I think it's super complex, and I feel like people that are not from the South they tend to make quick judgments about the South and the
Yes.
culture. And I think what, Jason and BJ do, and so many of these other artists do so perfectly, it's like, kind of grappling with that back and forth of, and I've talked to BJ about this too, of like what it means to be a Southerner, to have like pride, to have your childhood memories, to grow up the way that you did, but also to not agree with a lot that's happening in your community. And I think the way that they both, and even the truckers are really good at this too, is that they're not afraid of speaking out and they're not afraid of telling people exactly how they feel. And I feel like, I just saw Drive By Truckers do Southern Rock Opera
Yeah.
last November, and even like the duality of the Southern thing, and all of these. I think the Truckers are a great example. All of their albums from like the last Trump period, and a lot of their songs are so they still are fresh, and they're almost like evergreen of how it is to be in the South, and a lot of like the conflicts that you can kind of feel. And I think Crimson and Clay is a great example of that too. And I think it's important and I've noticed kind of people and peers and even some other Ole Miss students kind of feel similarly. And yeah, I think it's an important thing to talk about. And I think a lot of people, some people aren't really comfortable with bringing that up. But I think as a Southerner, it is important to kind of have that a conversation and address, the nuances of it.
I'm from Oklahoma, and I get a lot of that in the the red dirt music where I'm from. Everything there filters back through Woody Guthrie, who is
Hmm.
somebody who it took a long time for his hometown, Okemah, Oklahoma, to accept because of
Hmm.
his contrarian nature to the state and area that he was from. But all these years later, he's beloved there, and it's
Hmm.
been it's been almost magical to watch somebody like him be accepted in small town Oklahoma. Um, well, I want to wrap this up, but I want to wrap this up with another question for you because the world of country music is being taken over by a bunch of folks who are targeting you. You are the target
Yeah.
demographic for folks like Evan Honer and Wyatt Flores, Dylan Gossett, Caitlin Butts, just this
Hmm.
younger musicians who are really, really, really playing stripped down songs and they're wearing their emotions on the sleeve. Um, but folks your age, folks at Ole Miss, college students and younger, all the way down to
Hmm.
people in their late teens, are reacting to these people the way the way that I saw people react to Britney Spears or Justin Bieber 25
Yeah.
years ago. Um, give me your big picture take on this new wave of young emo country artists that have such heavy influences from Jason, Tyler Childers, and Aquarium too. What do you see in this group of musicians?
I think, I think that these younger like all of the people that you mentioned, and Wyatt is a big example too. Like they're bringing that quality of, and I think it just even shows everything I was talking about too with like Jason and Aquarium, like that emotional connection. And I think that they're able to, like from that younger perspective, to write songs like that. I think it even shows like Wyatt played, he just played Oxford near Ole Miss. I was
Yes.
out of town. I think I was seeing Jason that week. Otherwise, I would have been there. But the crowd and people still talk about that. Like people are constantly wearing the t-shirts, and I think it just shows that people do crave that emotional, that singer-songwriter, that connection. They want those lyrics, and I think that people like Wyatt and Evan Hunter and Caitlin Butts and things like that, like Flatland Cavalry is really big too with the college crowd. I think it just shows that, we do crave those messages and like those stories and that music and that emotional connection. I think, Tyler Childers is another great example. He can like bridge that gap of like the typical, of audience of like older adults that would be at these shows to younger kids. And I think it's really cool also that people like Wyatt and Caitlin and they're bringing attention. I brought this up yesterday. They're bringing attention to people like Jason, to people like Sturgill Simpson, people that maybe a lot of kids my age, they're not on the radar. Like I know that like when I'm at these shows, I'm usually the youngest one there. So it is cool to kind of see that there are people my age making this kind of music, and it is really connecting with people, but it's also exposing them to these other artists as well. And I think it shows that people really do crave the authenticity of like a songwriter and a storyteller. And I think that's why, they have that kind of like that Britney Spears, that Justin Bieber level fandom, because it's really hitting with people. And I feel like a sea of like a lot of like the commercialized country music, or a lot of like, the pop music that will come and go. I think people really like something that they can connect to.
Well, I know the industry is going to eventually figure out a way to commercialize this too, but I'm glad to be living in this moment where they haven't figured it out yet because it's a joy. And now we're gonna have to do two tags because I want to hear your thoughts the first time you sat through a Wyatt show too.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
Bello, this has been great. Thanks so much for coming on. This is wonderful. It's been inspiring, and I'm really glad you took the time out to sit down here and let's do it again sometime. But before we go,
Yeah.
going forward, by the time this comes out, it'll be midsummer. So tell folks that might want to hear some of your interviews what the best way to do that is.
Yes, so my YouTube channel is Bella Steiert. All the spelling, hopefully I can give it to Josh. And then my Instagram is Bella.Steiert. That's where I kind of do a lot of the main updates of, it's where you can see who I'm interviewing, and I usually announce that over there. And yeah, then I will continue my show at Alabama. So all of the updates of like the college radio side of things, as well my interviews, that would probably be the best way to figure out where that's going. But it has been such a pleasure being able to talk to you. This has been great.
Well, best of luck in the next step. Thanks again for coming on.